And welcome to EDF 5705, Assignment 1, Part 1, where I chose to conduct a seminar presentation on how do I, as a primary school teacher, meet the diverse learning needs of my students when teaching science. The format that this presentation will take is looking at what is learner diversity, looking at a science inquiry or a science lesson that I conducted, theoretical approaches to teaching science, children's literature and science, diversity in the Australian curriculum, and at the end a summary. So what is learner diversity? Well, Martin says that children differ in their learning style, cognitive style, learning modality, intelligence, creativity, reasoning ability, special physical, cognitive and language needs. So how do we as teachers cater for all this diversity in our science lessons? Well, I chose to investigate this by conducting my own lesson on my two children, aged 5 and 7, on sinking and floating. So I have my lesson plan here. Page 1, as you can see, it's Auswell's Level 1. The learning outcomes are there with the Auswell strands. The resources are listed there, including a book, Who Sank the Boat by Pamela Allen, a tub of water, all the objects that we were going to investigate, sinking or floating, as well as my inquiry sheet which I prepared for the students. As I bring up page 2, I'll also bring up my first picture. So the first phase of my lesson, or the intro, included reading the book Who Sank the Boat by Pamela Allen, and you can see me there reading it to my children. And asking some questions about sinking or floating around that book, and I'll go into children's literature more later in the presentation. The next slide, as you can see, I then investigated my children's prior knowledge on sinking or floating through brainstorming. You'll notice that I've used visuals instead of a lot of writing, and that's because I know that my children are not yet quite competent with reading and writing, so I needed to use visuals. But perhaps for another grade 1 group I probably could use writing. In terms of the lesson itself, I'll just bring up the sheet that I prepared, which we used. You'll see the objects listed down the left-hand column. As I introduced the lesson, I demonstrated the first item, the carrot, and predicted whether it would sink or float, and then recorded the result. There's 2 boxes down the bottom underneath the golf ball. This was provided as an extension for perhaps if my 7-year-old finished before her younger brother, to go away and draw her own objects which she wanted to investigate. As a group, we shared our learning, and the lesson could be assessed through that sheet. In terms of theoretical approaches, I took a constructivist view, which considers how students learn and to provide the best classroom environment and teaching strategies. And you can see I've done this through these pictures by actually letting my son physically feel and play with the objects before predicting whether they would sink or float. This is also supported by a model of teaching by listening by Martin, which is a child-focused strategy, provides meaningfulness, and can cater for different levels of understanding. The overall assumption is that if children study something that interests them, they're more likely to learn. And this is evident by him allowing him to put his own toy and investigate whether it sank or float. Children's literature and science, well, the literature in supporting this is overwhelming. It supports creative thinking, problem solving, unique ideas, and supports students by catering for different reading levels. Diversity in the Australian curriculum. Specifically, there's 3 different ways that we can diversify our science lessons as teachers. One is by making curriculum adjustments. For example, teaching social skills in a science lesson. Another is using instructional adjustments by modelling and demonstrating and identifying keywords, as I did in my sinking or floating lesson. And finally, environmental adjustments, for example, by providing peer assistance or use of support personnel. So in summary, teaching science to cater for diverse learners needs to incorporate the following: teaching by listening, visuals, extensions, questioning, adjusting curriculum, instruction and learning environment. The end. Thank you.